Thoughts on vinyl and vision.
Hi, I'm your host, Jimmy Drab here, and this is my show with my very special guest tonight, Brandon St Pierre, who is the lead singer of the said band Anxious Wave. He's my guest tonight, and we are discussing Nirvana's Bleach. So this is kind of a big show. I mean, that's a tough record to tackle. I hope I did it some justice. I hope my guest Brandon and I did it some justice. It's a great album. It's very nostalgic for me and for him. I mean, it's a touchstone in rock and roll history. And if you like rock music at all, I mean, you have had some exposure to it at some point. What your opinion may be on it is up to you. I think that it's extremely important, and it's just been a pleasure to get to know Brandon and get to speak with him and get to speak with him about this album. It's awesome. I can't believe I haven't done a Nirvana album yet. This is the first one. So I'm just going to make this really quick. Anxious Wave is a fairly new band, and I got turned on to them, and the story, and I'll share in the show how I actually even got to know about the band and Brandon, and it's fairly unique, I think, and it's very fun. I'm glad I got to know them. I'm glad I got to know Brandon, and it was a great talk. They're playing. Happy Veterans Day, by the way. It's Thursday at this time that you may be listening to this, and if you are listening to this on Thursday, then that means tomorrow, November 12th, is Friday. Anxious Wave will be playing their last show in the city, in Providence, for the year at the News Cafe with four other bands. I'm not going to be able to remember all of their names, so I'm not going to go ahead and attempt, but it's a great bill. Brendan mentions it in the conversation, and he mentions the other bands that are going to be on the bill. So if you have some time and you're looking for something to do on Friday, that's a great option, and I will also personally try to be there myself. I probably will be there. I'll probably make it. Don't hold me to it. I don't make promises. So they have a new album coming out. The time, the availability date is to be determined. The vinyl record is being held up along with just about everybody else's releases this year. So no sure time on that, but it is coming, and the new album will be released by Nefarious Industries, which is excellent. It's awesome. I'm glad that they found a good and great company to put out the record for them, because it's going to be good. I'm sure it will be. In the meantime, you can listen to other music by Anxious Wave through their Bandcamp. The link will be provided through the show notes. At the end of the episode, I've actually included the song Control off of their 2019 split with Pranzer Chocolate. Did I say that right? I hope I said that right. Song called Control. Brandon mentions it at the end of the episode as kind of being a song that was very influenced by Nirvana, and so I gave it a listen. I was just like, yeah, I hear that. So I figured I'd share that with all of you as well if you stick around to the end. I think that's it for now. Thank you folks for tuning in, and if you, as we say here, please do all the things you do with the internet. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and rate and review, and if you care to know any more about us or help support the show, visit our website, psychicstatic.net, and any purchases you make through that website for any of the records that I have up for sale goes towards funding this project. Oh yeah, they have a video for the single Complex Needs, which if you're watching the video, maybe you can check out a little bit of it right here. Obviously you want to go to the link, which we will provide you in the show notes, and then that way you can watch the entire video, and it's the whole thing, and listen to the music while it's playing. And it's a great video. It was made by a previous guest, Brandon Paris Sanchez, and his company Monster Makeup Productions. And just look at it. It's crazy. It's great. It's such a good job, such a good video. Thank you, folks. Enjoy the show. Talk soon. But for now, I guess just say hi and nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
I'm surprised we didn't meet at the Scurvy Dog parking lot show.
I know. I know. Well, there was quite a few people there. Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
easy to get lost in the sea.
I was camped. I was camped out. I was actually hoping you might just come over and say hi because because obviously we were in touch, and I was just like, I want to talk to that guy. I want to definitely get to know him.
For sure.
Yeah.
Did we like cross paths or anything?
No, because I was just behind my table. I was there, setting up merch for Psychic Static and the Hammer Party.
Oh, you had a table there. That's why. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, so I wasn't really milling about. I wasn't schmoozing. I was just
Sure,
sitting.
gotcha.
I was sitting.
Gotcha. Right. All right. So that makes sense then, because I was schmoozing.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Hey, man, you gotta take every opportunity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Speaking of which, I just saw you guys. Your band Anxious Wave is celebrating its 4th year.
Yeah, we started jamming 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I guess the fourth. The fourth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's cool, man.
Thanks. Yeah, really kind of strange because it wasn't supposed to be.
No?
No,
so?
I swore off music for a bit.
Oh yeah,
I was focused on
going monk. What were you doing?
Oh no! I was finishing grad school. I was finishing up. I was just focused on my career at that point. When I said I'm good, I was tired of being band dad in the bands that I had been in. I've been in bands since I was like 16 years old. I'm 35 now.
Okay.
So, it was kind of just like, it's time, I'm doing all this adult shit, like buying a house and getting married and all of that. But then, coincidence or whatever, I don't know. It was just kind of like fate. Like I was starting to get the itch for it a little bit when Mikey asked me to do it. But it wasn't like, I can't wait to start a band again, and it was so not even anything that we were intending. We weren't thinking like we're going to write all these songs and try to put out a record and play some pretty good show, like pretty big, at least with some pretty big bands as far as the shows that we've played. Things like that. Like we weren't thinking about taking it quite as serious. Not that we take it super seriously, but quite as seriously as we have.
Right.
And that's turned into kind of what it is.
That's cool. Well, that's great. So you kind of touched on a couple of things that I wanted to get into because obviously we have not met or spoken before, and you had approached me originally about possibly really putting your record out, the new record for Anxious Wave, live at the Poison Room. Was it called?
Live at the Poison Factory.
Live at the Poison Factory. I'm sorry. So it's a great record. Honestly, it was a hard pass for me to let you know honestly, because at the time, unfortunately, I was kind of like in agreement with somebody to work on another project, and I just didn't want to put myself in a bad position.
Sure. But, and it was like the earlier months of COVID that we had been in contact.
Right.
So who knew what was going on with what at that point? Like shows hadn't started back up yet, I don't think, or if they had, it was like very mild.
Right. Very limited. Yeah. Very limited capacities, limited availability. Like, yeah, not great.
Yeah. So I can't blame you at all. I couldn't blame anybody that said no. A lot of people said no, don't worry.
Sure. Well, no, I'm sure they did.
Yeah, right.
It happens.
That's how it goes.
It happens with your first gig, right? Your first record. Because, you have an EP out, and then you have a split 7-inch, right?
But so we have a demo from 2018 that we just released on Bandcamp. Mm-hmm. We have the EP that we did with Daryl Rabidou, that we put out on a cassette, self-released, just a digital split with Panzer Chocolate. And then we recently put out the single with Illuminate My Heart Records, which is a label here in Providence, run by Matt from Amitié, another band here.
Amitié?
Amitié. It's a French word. I can't remember what it means, and I don't want to be misquoted. Amitié. It's Amitié with a little... Okay. Yeah, with a little shout out to them. We're actually going to be playing with them November 12th at the News. A little plug there.
Oh, sweet. Great. Yeah. You're just killing birds with stones over here. I'm like, I'm getting to that.
Right. Sorry, jumped in the gun.
No, that's quite all right. We'll talk about it many times. Make sure everyone knows about it.
Sure.
So I listened to those releases from Bandcamp recently, and I hadn't listened to it prior to you sending me the advance of the full length, which I think that it's all really great. Honestly, it was a hard pass for me, man. You know, seriously, I really was considering it, but at the same time, so the weird thing was that I had just done the episode with Brandon Paris Sanchez. Brandon Paris Sanchez. And I was like,
gorgeous.
Yeah, so I was literally just prepping that show to be aired like that day. And then I saw him post something, or no, you sent me the advance like the day before, and I was just like, I don't even know this band. I don't know who this is.
Yeah.
And then I do the show for him, and then like the next day he, tells me about, or he told me about the video he did for you guys.
Right.
Complex Needs, right?
Yep.
Which was great. It was such a great video, and like, so I watched it. I was just like, "Who the fuck is this band? Like, why are they all of a sudden blowing up? They're like, they got it right up in the New Noise Now, right?
Yeah.
About the video, and now the video is on Fangoria. So I was just like, where the fuck are these guys coming from? Like all of a sudden, I mean, I'm not the most in tuned with the scene, but I mean, I tend to be a little proud of like knowing a little bit of what's happening.
Sure.
So that's why it was all very surprising to me, like, because I was just like, man, I mean, like, it's great to be given the opportunity to even be offered like to a record to put out, and then to have it be by a cool band and like a good band, and that's like, you guys are young, but you're obviously like, doing the thing and doing it well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, I was turned on to you by virtue of the Hammer Parties record.
Of course.
That's so. We've played with the Hammer Party a couple times, and live, as you know, it's like, whoa, once you check out the Hammer Party, you're checking out the Hammer Party. That's kind of how I feel about it. Once they're in, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome people and an awesome band.
Yeah.
So it kind of went from there. It was just like, oh, this is a cool, new label. Well, as far as I know, new label.
Yeah. That's true.
New label putting out a cool new band with some veterans of the area, and it was just like, well, we played with them a couple times, and I like the release, and let's see what happens. And then I guess it was just all coincidence from there, because you had mentioned, I was just talking to Brandon Paris about you guys last night. So yeah, everything I guess happens for a reason and lines up however it lines up, and you never know what the future holds. So
no. It seems the scene's crazy too. I mean, like, it's so nice that things are happening again, and I think that I guess that year kind of really killed it. So like, because you're Anxious Wave being together for 4 years, it's like 1 year was inactive, kind of. I mean, I guess you were recording the record, I assume, right? Oh yeah, we were doing. I mean, most of. Well, wait. Let me think about that. Is that true? Yeah, well, 2020. My timeline is all messed up. My timeline's all messed up because we were. You must have been finishing it, because I think you sent it to me in like March. Right. And that means obviously you did post-production. You must have done the mixing and mastering by that point. I'm trying to think of the sequence, really. Yeah. I mean, so I think was it March that I sent it of this year, 2021? I think so. I think it was around that. That sounds about right. Yeah. So what I believe happened was, right at the foot of COVID, like right when it started to become a thing. Like I remember us kind of joking about it at a time at Brian's where we recorded. We had started to go over there just to like get rough tracks on some of the songs down. And then obviously when things got crazy, we were like, we're gonna put it to bed for a bit. But then when things started to lighten up, so at those various points, that's when we would get together and we would record some stuff. So it really was choppy all throughout COVID. Well, not that COVID's over, but you know what I mean. The lockdown, I guess. Yes. Right. So over that amount of time, that's how the record came to be. I don't remember even at this point the exact sequence, but I know that we were done with it by the fall of 2020 because that's when we shot the music video for Complex Needs. Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, he turned that around pretty quick then for you guys. That video. Oh yeah, he did. So good. Those guys. Well, Brandon and his crew, because they're just always on the go.
Go,
Yeah.
go, 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 go.
What's his company's name? Monster
Makeup Productions.
Monster Makeup Productions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Fantastic, and they're always on the move. Like they're always out, they're always doing stuff, I actually have to give Brandon and his Monster Makeup Productions, I guess, the whole bunch of them, Brandon and Ryan and Wayne and Chris and Mike, I have to give them all a shout out, because I feel like a big part of Anxious Wave's jump in popularity. I wouldn't say we're popular, but jump in, people know who we are, I guess, in the area.
Yeah.
To some extent, and I would attribute that to those guys. Like, they've hooked us up with lots of really cool opportunities, including but not limited to that music video. We're going to be working together in the future too.
That's great. Yeah, because they had you do a little cameo in the movie too, Death Drop Gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
that thing's out and everywhere now. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's. I know some secrets about it, I guess. I don't know if it's even a secret, but it hasn't been announced yet, so I'm not going to say it for them. Okay, but I know that it will be streaming on at some point beyond it is streaming now, actually. No, it is streaming now.
I think you can get it some places, and they definitely have a DVD that you can actually order. So if anyone hasn't done that yet, you should. It's a great movie.
Absolutely. Awesome movie with awesome people behind it.
Yeah, for sure. So, speaking about your band, Anxious Wave, so you were saying how you've been playing since you're 16, right? So you're about 20 years in now?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what other bands were you doing before Anxious Wave came along?
Oh, various hardcore bands, punk bands, metal bands. The first band I was ever in, I was in high school. It was called Silenced Forever. It was more like aligned with something like, it was just like me and my high school friends basically playing to other high school friends, but we just thought it was the coolest thing. Played the living room all the time, that kind of stuff. Yeah. That was more like Unearthed or Poison the Well, something like that, because that's what we were really into at the time, and that's what I certainly was into at the time. It was very popular at that point. Underground music, hardcore and metalcore, that kind of thing. But that was my first band, and then from there I've been in a few others. Lowlife would probably be the one that most people would know me from, because we played some pretty big shows too. We played with like H2O and Sworn Enemy and other kind of hardcore thing.
So you've always been a singer too.
Yeah, I've always been the singer.
You don't play anything?
No. Some of my friends would say that I play drums. I would say that I play drums, but I've never played drums in a band officially. That maybe will be a thing one day too. Who knows? Yeah,
I love drums too, man. It's just so fun just banging around on them. Like, I don't consider myself very good, but yeah, at some point it'd be fun to like, someone that wants to start like a Nirvana cover band, I'll be like, okay, I could play that, sure.
Yeah, right, exactly, stuff like that. So I could play some Dave Grohl type drums, nothing like extravagant, but I could get away with a beat here and there. But I also play the keyboard, like the piano, I guess. I started doing that in actually earlier than high school. But I'm not I don't know how to play. I can just play along with maybe somebody else and come up with my own little things here and there.
So you started playing when you were 16. So you've always been a singer. So that's strange for me because I've never been a singer really. How do you get started? Like what possessed you to want to be the front man of this first band that you started when you were 16? Or were you voted? Was it one of those things where it's like, no, you can yell pretty good, you try it.
No, actually. So when I was a kid, I've always been very, very interested in music. I've always clung to music. Its escapist qualities and things like that. And at like very young age, we're talking like 3, 4, really, really, really young.
That's cool.
Which we'll get into as we talk about the album later on, but not my album, Nirvana's album.
Right.
But I remember talking to my dad, because my dad's also pretty interested in music. He's not like a musician or anything, but he was always listening to music when I was a kid. Both of my parents listened to lots of music. And so I remember saying, what do you think I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. Like, what do you think is the most important part of being in a band? And he thought about it for a second. and said the drums. He probably doesn't even remember this conversation, but I certainly do. And he
cool.
said the drums. And I was like, dude, yeah, I want to be a drummer. And so it was like a little kid kind of thing. Yeah. Awesome. And so I got an electric like drum set, not drum set. It was like a drum pad for Christmas or something shortly thereafter. And that was the closest it ever got to it, because that had that had a volume button on it. My parents were not going to get me a drum set, and a drum set was very expensive. They were working class people, super working class people.
Sure.
So that was kind of that. And I always loved music and wanted to be a part of music, but it was never like I can afford instruments or anything like that.
Right.
Or have the space, growing up in apartments and things like that. Eventually, you have a friend who has a basement or somebody that with a space, but that was years later. So if it was up to me, I probably would have been a drummer since that age or something, but it worked out the way it worked out. But by virtue of just being interested in music and never actually like playing an instrument, I always just hung out with musicians and had friends that all had guitars. And I tried guitar a couple times, dude. I just don't have the hands for it or something. I don't know. Like, I can't do that. So that's not in the cards. So I just hung out with musicians, and my best friend since I was 9 or 10 years old, he started playing guitar when we were like young teenagers, 12 or 13, I think. And he was in a band, and it was cool, got to go to his shows and see that. And then that band broke up, and another band broke up after that. And then eventually it was like, hey man, why don't we start a band together? And that's kind of how it started. Because what other skill do I have besides, well, I can yell. So it went from there. And that was just kind of how it was. It wasn't like I picked, I can't wait to sing in a band or anything. Like, just learn to get good at it, I guess. I don't know. Right.
So you were saying that life stuff happened and you took a break and you didn't think you were going to get back into a band. Like, what happened? Or like what was going on? Just going back to school?
So I was working on my MSW. I'm a clinical social worker. It's perfect. It's the career aligned with punk rock as far as I'm concerned. It's about the eradication of poverty. So I'm a clinical social worker, and it was just too much at the time. And then I kind of just like faded out of it for a bit, just focusing on my career and getting things going that way. All the anti-punk stuff, buying a house, buying a new car. I
think you got to destroy it from the inside. You got to like get in there. You got to like get successful. Like, actually, you know what? That is actually a very sincere comment I'm thinking about right now, because I actually had this conversation with my wife, because she's kind of like an anarchist in a way. A lot of like heavy opinions. Not like she wants to jam them down your throat, but she's very very headset in some of these things. And like, I tell her all the time, just like, look, what kind of change do you think you're really going to make? Like, do you know how you really make a change? You have to like literally.
You have to play the game a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's either storm the castle, right, and potentially martyr yourself, or it's destroy it from the inside. You have to become extremely powerful in one way or another, whether it be your voice or your finances, and fund and speak towards those things that you want to change. And only as a major influencer, and I hate using that word because I don't like the connotation of it, but I mean, like, as a person of stature, people will stand behind you, and people will fight for your cause if they believe in you, So I mean, I think that unfortunately that those are the two options we have.
Yeah, I clearly agree, because that's the route I chose, And honestly, college was never even a thing I wanted to do in my life. I had no desire to go to college. I had no desire to, earlier on in my life, I just wanted to just work a job and just work a job that pays enough, some miracle job that pays enough with no skill that, for also to live,
Just enough to get by,
Yeah. That was all I really, so I could punch in, punch out, and then enjoy my life. Right. But I quickly realized that kind of job didn't exist anymore, because I was coming of age I was born into the Pawtucket Mill City kind of thing, and my family was all mill workers at the end of that whole thing. Right. So basically everybody's a high school dropout, and that I kind of grew up with, and things like that. So there was no intention culturally. It's kind of the culture of poverty.
Sure.
Kind of caught up with me in years later, right? Like, no one goes to college in my circle, so I'm not going to go to college. So I'm just going to try to work some job. But those mill jobs, the union jobs, they didn't exist by the year 2004 to 2005, when I was trying to find that work.
Right.
Life went on. I found a job that, squeaked by. And then at 23, I found myself moving into my mom's basement. And I was like, I have to make some sort of a change in my life, or this will be the rest of my life. And no, not 23. I was a little younger than that, maybe like 22. But I didn't want to be living in my mom's basement anymore, for sure. So I was like, I got to do something different. And I decided to go to CCRI. It's a big, long-winded story, because I was just like, I was going to get an associate's degree and hopefully that would help. But then I found social work, and it was like, holy shit, this explains everything ever, about me and where I'm from and who I'm from, and all of it explains so much about myself. And I was like, this is why it is, and I have to make some changes, and this is the only way I know how. And I guess that's kind of where it all ended up, where if I have to punch 40 hours a week doing something to fund my fun shit, like being in a band and my tremendous book collection behind me and that I live in, I have to do something. Might as well do something that I can give a damn about. And that's what I've been doing. Yeah.
I mean, and it's not wrong to try to, make better yourself and put yourself in a position where you don't have to struggle. Because I mean, I'm still struggling. I'm actually not college educated. I am doing, the work gig, and it's not fucking fun, man.
It's not fun either way, though. That's the thing. That's the thing that I've realized. No matter how much shit, it all sucks. Work sucks everywhere in every way. That's kind of what I've discovered. Unless it's work that you like, you are really passionate. So I guess that's what I'm saying here. Yeah. Like, to have a boss is the worst thing, and I hope my boss doesn't see this, but like, having a boss sucks, and I just cannot wait.
But, no offense, but you guys suck. I mean, you guys can't
everybody's
relate.
Boss sucks. Some of the shit, man. Not my direct boss, my direct, because that's the other thing in social work. There's 7,000 managers for every for everything. So not my direct boss, because there's 74 layers of management above her. But everybody above her, it's just yuck. Yeah, the worst, the absolute worst, even in social work. Well, we fight the war on poverty. And so I cannot wait which is about 5 more minutes in my career. in the grand scheme of things, not literally 5 more minutes, but 5 more minutes until I can just be my own boss, because I'm independently licensed at this point. I just have some loan forgiveness things to wrap up at my employer, and then boom, I am done. I'm going into private practice.
Nice.
Like fancy pants private practice. I have a whole thing, but that's
cool.
Discussed.
Good for you, man. No, I love it. That's great. Yeah. I love to hear those things, man. You got to take care of number one, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Hey, so do you want to talk music a little bit?
Yeah, sorry about shop.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's all part of the story, really. It's all kind of part of getting to know you. But
yeah, so it's gonna be a hard one to edit, though.
No. You have no idea.
Right.
Sure. So you were saying you came from a middle class family and from Pawtucket?
I wouldn't even say middle class family. They probably would, but no.
We were poor.
Lower middle class.
Sure. No one wants to say poor, but we were poor.
We were poor. Poor. Yeah, yeah. And all of the things that come with poor came with it.
Right. So what was music like in your house? You said your parents liked music. So what were they listening to?
My mother was listening to lots of 80s pop and early 90s pop, and I love that stuff to this day. A lot of female power pop stars. Yeah.
All right.
A little Prince. I would say she probably listened to Prince a bit, and I love Prince very much.
Sure.
A bunch of stuff like that. A lot of 80s dance music. New Shoes. I remember her owning that and having that in heavy rotation. I Can't Wait was their huge single. It's a great song. You'll recognize it as soon as you play it when you check it out.
Sure.
Yeah, I know. And my father listened to more like 70s rock and some 80s rock too. The coolest band my dad probably introduced me to would probably be like The Cure or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, so kind of a good range, mix bag there.
Yeah.
And so you said you were always into music since you were like really, really little. Like what are some of your first memories of like being introduced to music?
That I picked. That
Yeah,
I,
yeah, kind
yeah.
of. Or that you
Mm.
could that you realize you were like that, like the first thing that you listened to, and it's just like, oh, that's good. I like this.
So this is the story that's coming to my head.
Sure.
I remember I had two older cousins, Brad and Jeff, and like I must have been like 3 years old, and they were in the record store. I was with them, a record store that is in a it doesn't even exist anymore. This was like years, 1989.
Yeah.
And they were grabbing stuff, and I remember selecting three cassette singles that were 99 cents, and just picking them on account of their artwork. They just appealed to my 3-year-old eyes, and they were Guns N' Roses' "Sweet Child of Mine," Paula Abdul "Straight Up," and I can't remember what song, but it was something by Simply Red.
Okay.
So, and then these went home with me, and the only one I liked was the Guns N' Roses cassette. I remember that. That I guess could be the first thing. But I was like, and I've heard stories being from my parents, my father telling me how much I loved the song. I think it's called "Set on You" by George Harrison.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like as a little kid, like baby practically. So, but the first thing that I remember being like super stoked about would probably be Nirvana or Metallica, one of the two, probably about the same age.
Yeah, and was it
4 or 5 years old?
Was it Nevermind that you first heard?
Absolutely.
And you were like 4 or 5
It was
at the
before
time?
school. What's that?
Were you like 4 or 5 at the time? You said no. How old were you when you heard it? You were?
Yeah, 1991 it came out.
And you were how old in 91?
I was born in 86, so 5.
Oh, wow. That's so weird. I like it. It's so strange to me because it's like this is a very nostalgic record for me. I mean, like the band in general, I had to go back and listen to the entire catalog because I was just like, oh, it's been a while since I've heard all of these.
Sure.
Digging into this first one, Bleach, is just like it's the one that I listened to the least probably. I'm like everybody else, I'm like the majority of the fan base of Nirvana is just like I heard Nevermind first. I was 11 when it came out in 91 and remember it being completely mind-blowing and explosive. So why did you choose this record as opposed to Nevermind?
So it's the difference. It's the radical difference between the two. I had heard Nevermind first, like you, which is a decidedly clean record.
Oh yeah.
And most records, if you went to the store in 1991, while they didn't sound like Nevermind, like the music, the songs didn't sound like Nevermind. The production, I mean, it sounded like a 90s rock record, and probably formed what 90s rock records sounded like too. But it didn't sound like the production quality and the song structure weren't that far. There's a reason why it blew up. It was palatable, for music. Just the average, I know, the average Joe, I guess. I mean, like they did it right, and the production was a huge part of that. Bleach, on the other hand, I had never heard it. That was the first record I had ever heard that sounded with like any true grit to it that I can remember, and the songs are like heavy and gross. And I was probably 6 or 7 years old listening to Bleach for the first time, and I had never heard anything like it. And hated it. Actually, that was a big part of why I chose it, because I didn't like it at that age. Time I heard it. It's much like Master of Puppets' Black Album around the same time. And then I went back and heard Master of Puppets and was like, ugh, I don't like this, because I was a little kid and I'm hearing like glitzy, poppy, kind of like very sheened production.
Right.
And that's what my ears wanted. And then to hear kind of like, not to say that Master of Puppets isn't very produced, but the song structure is just wildly different. You have to think about that. And I guess that's the same thing with Bleach and Nevermind. And why I chose it is because it really opened the doors to me accepting heavy music at all. Like hearing a down-tuned guitar and just shrieking in a microphone, because that happens on Bleach, and I'd never heard anything like that before. So it's really, truly, you asked me, what's a gateway record? It really, truly is. It was like probably the first true record with like screaming vocals on it I ever listened to.
Yeah. So yeah, because so you said you listened to this when you were around 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Never mind, you were around 5. So
Yeah.
a year later, getting into this one. So when
Maybe
was
even
it?
maybe eight even.
Sure, sure. Well, so then so obviously you're a Nirvana fan. You go on the rest of your life kind of listening to Nirvana. You get In Utero and Incesticide and all that shit. And
I didn't get In Utero until much later on in life. I moved away from Nirvana for whatever reason.
at like preteen.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I mean, so you listen to Bleach at 6 or 7. They put out Incesticide, and then ultimately In Utero comes out, and you don't listen to those records.
No, Incesticide, absolutely. I had that on cassette, and in fact had a Nirvana T-shirt around that age. Was the Incesticide album art. I loved that record, but it's not, well, what I didn't recognize, once again, because I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, maybe 7 years old. I didn't recognize that Incesticide wasn't an album.
Right.
I thought that it was, their follow-up record, but what I later found out, it's just a collection of B-sides and,
demos and rarities and stuff. Yeah.
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 That's how it goes. They were kind of, I mean, the running theme here is, if your kid is like 4 or 5 years old and listening to Nirvana and loving it, there were some neglect. Neglect helped me become so interested in music at such a young age and have such an exposure to it,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
That's the truth. They weren't really monitoring the things I was doing because, frankly, they were wrapped up in their own shit, and fair enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, that actually sounds very parallel to Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, and that probably had a big part of it, because I remember reading like magazine articles, like Spin and Rolling Stone interviews and things like that, and him talking about his childhood. Maybe there was, I probably didn't process it that way as a kid, but there was maybe from some part of me subconsciously or something that clung to that. This is a guy who came from something similar and did something really, well, at that time appeared to be really cool. Unfortunately, that was, before his untimely suicide.
Right.
Which also is poignant because I was a little kid watching one of his heroes kind of kill himself. Yeah, right. Literally.
Yeah.
I remember that very clearly too. Almost like I remember 9/11 or something. Like a little kid getting home and turning my TV on and finding out that Kurt Cobain died, and I was just totally bummed.
Oh yeah. This has been a bummer of a week for me, man. Like just getting into Kurt Cobain's mind a little bit, and like revisiting this time in my life, where I'm just like, man, I'm actually a little bummed right now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the music's great. I mean, like, it's just
sure.
like, it's nostalgic. It's very, very nostalgic. I mean, it's a point in my life where I was starting to learn how to play music, and so this, I mean, Nirvana was the band that kind of like, the Velvet Underground was for some people. It was just like, I want to play music now because I hear what these guys can do, and it seems possible.
For sure.
I was just like, sure. even the simplicity of the music, I was just like, I can learn this. Like, I can actually play what he's doing. Like, I think I can actually do that.
Right.
So wild.
Absolutely. And while the first time I heard this record, I wasn't thinking about it in that way. I think later on, when I was, actually in bands and recognizing what it took to write a song and all that kind of stuff. And the simplicity of it was really probably like the coolest part for me. In hindsight, at the time, the thing, it's like, I mean, the song Negative Creep comes to mind, where it's not even really a riff. I mean, he's just kind of like chugging and sliding his hand up and down the guitar, and that is the riff to the song. Not, once again, nothing like that. I had never heard anything like that before. And
so we should get into this record. Do you own a copy of this?
So yes, I do. It's in a bin in my basement. I have it both on CD and cassette, but not on record.
Oh, okay. Well, those are going to cost you quite a bit now.
Yeah, right.
I mean, except for the reissues, like there's I don't think they've put out the 30th year, but they did do the 20-year anniversary, and I don't know. I don't know if it'd be worth it. I mean, I'm not crazy about reissues in general. I'm not crazy about like the extra content, and for the most part, that's only got like a live concert added to it.
Yeah, and that's readily available too.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into this record. And we'll start off with the first track. Yeah.
Yeah, Blue.
Opening track. It's a great song. There's a lot to say about this record, and I don't know how much we're going to get into about it just because there's so many different facts. So let's see. Well, for this song, Kurt has been quoted as saying he didn't take much time writing the lyrics for all these songs, and frankly, he could give a fuck about any of them. So what's your writing process like lyrically?
I would be lying if Kurt Cobain didn't have something to do with it. I think that I kind of take core issues and ideas and chop it up and kind of make nonsense out of it. And sometimes there's a little quip in there and a little witty thing in there. But I would say if you looked at my lyrics, you wouldn't be able to easily identify what the hell it's about. And I feel like Kurt Cobain's lyrics are very similar in that regard. Like, it's like first glance, it's like, what the hell is this nonsense?
Right.
But I wouldn't say I don't care about them. I wouldn't say I don't care about them or give a damn, but I'm also not writing the riffs, and he was. So his passion was maybe more there.
Yeah. Well, I think that he was a procrastinator, it seems, from what I had read, that he kind of just waited till the last night before going into the studio to just kind of pull an all-nighter and just write down whatever he could. And I think that that's why the majority of this record, you'll notice that if you listen to it, you'll see that there's a lot of repeated verses and choruses, and that very repeated lines. Some songs even have a few lines altogether, and that's it.
Same thing with Anxious Wave. Same thing with Anxious Wave, for sure.
You rely heavy on the chorus.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of that.
Also, how much time do you take writing?
Sometimes 30 seconds. Sometimes, it's like I'm writing it while these guys are just jamming it and just pours out. There's other times where I sit with it for days. Are you in the room with the guys as they're kind of piecing songs together? Every time.
And so you'll just freestyle for a while until you find something, then maybe write it down.
Yeah, kind of. And it's not even, I wouldn't say I freestyle. I don't waste my time yelling over a microphone while these guys are trying to write the song or anything like that. But I'll sit there, in the back and kind of come up with whatever the melody is or the rhythm.
And so what do you find your content to be about a lot? What do you think? Do you have a certain theme that you kind of gravitate towards?
Yeah, politics.
Okay.
Politics and trauma and human biology, socioeconomics. I find that I write about family structures a whole lot. And that's not on purpose. There's just a lot of stuff about family structures and mothers and fathers and children. And I mean, it's probably because for a while in my career, I was working only with kids for a bit. Mm-hmm. And it just subconsciously falls out into the lyrics. But yeah, it's a little bit of all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Relationships, love, sex, drugs, rock and roll,
deep things.
Yes. Some, but deep things with kind of a sense of humor.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that, about you. That you seem like you have a pretty good sense of humor.
I have to, I think that it's a survival strategy because so many awful things are going on in the world all the time. And I mean, my work, and.
Right. So let's move on to the next song. Let's move on to Floyd the Barber. Just had to get a little bit of release in there with the chorus from all that sludgy tension.
Yeah, right. And it's a spooky chorus too. That riff is kind of spooky.
Yeah, it definitely has an eeriness about it. So I've never analyzed lyrics before, especially not for this record. With this show, I constantly analyze lyrics now, which is something I never used to do. And most people I speak to also don't analyze lyrics as well.
Yeah, so, I don't, and I write lyrics. So yeah,
sure. I mean, and it's just it's one of those things where it's not necessarily that important. I've always said lyrics and the words, the way they're sung is kind of another instrument, and it's just kind of.
That's exactly how I view it.
Yeah, it's a layer of the music,
Right. It's like a percussion.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's part of it. It's part of the fabric. So, so Floyd the Barber is technically based on, or at least characters involved in this song are characters from the Andy Griffith Show.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with Andy Griffith Show very well. I mean, I know I've seen like maybe an episode here or there as a kid, but I'm certainly not a fan.
Yeah, right.
But
I actually had no idea that. So maybe I haven't read about this.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, it's kind of a weird, like, you know, dark humor take on the Andy Griffith Show, because he kind of mentions characters from that show throughout the song, Floyd the Barber being one of the characters, and it's essentially,
I would have never known that.
Yeah, it's essentially about this character that comes into the barbershop to get a haircut or whatever, and is taken advantage of, and is like, you know, I guess like sexually assaulted. And
so that's the part I get that it's about. I just didn't know it was involving characters from the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah. He mentions Opie and Aunt B in the song.
Yeah. But I thought they were like, you know, I guess that's probably, you know, the trauma of Kurt Cobain's life leads us to believe that all of the songs that are about trauma are about his traumas or people he knew or something. But here it's hopefully make-believe trauma that occurred with the cast and crew of Andy Griffith's show.
Right. Well, so I guess that's relieving to you to a degree then, because you're just like, oh, it's not all just about him and his trauma. Okay, that's nice.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, he actually was creative. I mean, it was actually like a fun kind of. I mean, it's like it's dark, but it's.
I'm trying to find these lyrics right now.
Oh, okay, yeah, you can get them for sure.
Oh, so, yeah.
Let's see. As dark and creepy as this song may seem, I can't help but to think that it's probably the best lyrical piece on the album.
Oh, really?
Well, because it's funny, because he never states who's in the chair. It's just like I guess he's singing from the perspective of this person coming into the barbershop. You know, so Floyd lures him in, says, you got hair on your chin, like, you know, let me clean you up. And so then, like, so he never states who's in the chair, but he does mention the other characters by name throughout the song. And I don't know, I mean, this is just, the situation at hand is really funny when you think of the juxtaposition of the squeaky clean facade of the show.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
right. I'm checking these lyrics out right now. They're
yeah. I mean, I think that
for this
it's
context,
funny.
Yeah.
He's just, you know, it's funny. It's a witty song, I think. Like, I mean, some people could read into it and say, like, this guy is kind of demented. He's kind of sick, and like, yeah, he kind of was a little bit. You know, he had a troubled background, but I think that this is just really funny. You know?
Right. And like, you know, that actually probably connects to what we were just talking about a few minutes ago.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to ask you, like, what is your content about mostly? Because, I mean, you know, I don't think that this is actually a far cry from some of the stuff that Kurt would write about often. You know, I mean, like, there's another song on this record, which we'll talk about, which is kind of a similar theme, but it's actually more of a nonfiction account. And then there's Polly off of, which he had already written that by this point.
Yep.
Like, they had demoed that around this time, but ultimately they re-recorded it for Nevermind.
Right.
So it's definitely a theme that he kind of like latches onto. So that's why I was asking about your themes prior.
Sure. It's cool. It's a cool. I like this one. One. In fact, I like this one a lot more than I like the next one.
Oh yeah. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a love song?
Yeah. Right. It's just it played out. You know, just one of those things. I've heard it so many times.
Right. No, that's true. Well, let's give it a little bit of a listen.
Sure.
So this is seeming to be a little bit more of the structure of the Kinks, whereas in the 30 seconds you kind of get a little flavor of the entire song. Cool.
Yeah. I you know, that's a cool observation. The Kinks. I never, you don't really hear. You don't think of Nirvana in the Kinks a lot, especially from Bleach era. But you know, another thing is this is kind of like this. This is the song structure that I believe totally informed most of Nevermind. This song.
Oh yeah. Well, there's actually, it's funny because I mean that is actually one of the facts that I have about this song is that this song is the one that ultimately led Butch Vig to want to work with Nirvana
Yeah.
because he had listened to the rest of Bleach and he was just and it's good. It's a good record. Okay, it's all right. It's a good rock record. But this one was the one that informed him of the possibility that they have, like the range that they have to flesh out songs and like what kind of chances they might be willing to take.
Right.
And that they had pop sensibilities. So.
Exactly. And this is I think that they all kind of have a pop sensibility in a weird way on this album, in a weird way. But this one is definitely the most traditional pop rock song.
Okay. So wait, so there's one thing I want to say about A Girl before we move on. So, okay, so this is fairly significant because if you think about a band making a debut full-length album amongst an up-and-coming punk grunge scene, and then considering putting this on, putting on this bubbly pop song,
Right.
it was going against everything that they may have been feeling pressure to strive for at the time. So, what is your greatest limb that you have gone out for yet, as of yet?
With Anxious Wave?
Yeah.
With Anxious Wave, I think it's about to be put out. It's the newest stuff, that we're going to do. The album, the newest album. Because there's definitely some more poppy kind of jangly kind of stuff on there that's not, I guess, that far from About a Girl.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's up?
It's not quite that poppy. I mean, I can
that poppy.
I can hear hooks, and I can hear accessibility, especially compared to like your first EP.
Yeah, definitely. That's for sure.
I mean, your first EP, I think, is a very straightforward kind of like hardcore record.
Yeah, kind of. There's with some like noodly riffs at some points, but
yeah.
But there's, particularly the third track on our new album, I think sounds like a Nirvana song straight up, just like a straight up verse, chorus. Kind of very melodic song, and I think that would probably be one of that song in particular. I mean, there's a cowbell in it, like
God forbid a cowbell.
Yeah, there's a cowbell in it. That's a limb for a hardcore punk band,
Right. I guess that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So how do you feel about it, though? I mean, like, you're obviously excited about it. You're obviously like pretty happy with it, right?
Our new album.
I mean, because that's the example of the limb you're going out on, right?
Yeah. I'm stoked. I'm so stoked. It's basically I feel like it's the music I was always supposed to be making in a lot of ways. Like it's kind of a mash of all the stuff that I like in one band.
Yeah.
Not stuff I like, but a lot of stuff that I like.
A good portion, sure. All right, well, let's move on to the next song, to School.
Cool.
I'll cut it just before the chorus.
No recess.
No recess.
Mm-hmm.
We all know it.
Right.
So this song is pretty cut and dry, pretty easy. This is actually the song where there's literally like 4 lines, I think.
Yeah, there's not much to this one, that's for sure.
Right. So now what I heard in the research for this album is that this song was actually written kind of in satire. Like it's Kurt was feeling very irritated by the music scene in Seattle and the whole grunge thing that was happening and how it actually seems like they were being pushed towards making grunge because it's like they weren't the grunge band. They just kind of blew it all up.
Right.
I guess, Sub Pop was kind of like coming up. They had a few acts under their belt, and some of them that were obviously major grunge acts, Mudhoney, Soundgarden specifically.
Right.
So they kind of like wanted Nirvana to be this grunge band, and Kurt was really feeling a little hesitant about it. So School is actually a metaphor for the music scene.
We're in high school again.
Yeah, because he had such a hard time in school, and he would actually had written a note to Dale Crover, I believe, just being like, "It feels like I'm in fucking high school again."
Yeah. The music scenes can be like that sometimes.
Right. Well, how do you feel about our local scene?
It has its woes, but it's a wonderful scene. I love Providence so much. Really, I mean, I think particularly right now, and maybe it's through the rosy-red glasses of post-COVID or something, but I feel like shows are just, every show I've gone to or played since the pandemic, since things reopen, has been great. There's new people, there's old people. It's just, we have so many awesome bands. And the fact of the matter is we have so many bands in Providence that it's like, you don't know them all. You live here, and we're a tiny little area with a tiny little music scene in the grand scheme of things. And there's so many bands that you could always find a new one,
Sure. Yeah.
I love it. It has drama and woes, and sometimes it is in high school, but it's up to us to just not pay attention to the negatives and focus on the positives and try to keep it going.
Right. All right, let's move on to Love Buzz. All right, guys, come on. That intro is way too long.
Yeah, it is. But I don't know that it's their fault. I've never heard the original. This is evidently a cover.
Yeah, you didn't know that before?
No, I did. I did know that. I just forgot it. But I've never heard the original version.
Oh, no?
No.
Well, here you go. A little different.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Dutch band, Shocking Blue.
Yeah, I was just reading that.
They are the ones that famously did that song Venus.
Like the Bananarama cover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her vocal does sound familiar in that way. It sounds like the same. Yeah, well, because it is, right?
You probably heard the original of Venus at some point. So this is the only cover of the album. It was also the first single Nirvana released through Sub Pop. And it was the first single of the Sub Pop Singles Club. Do you know how much this stupid fucking record will sell for if you have it?
I'm sure it's quite a hefty amount.
There was 1,000 that was pressed for the Singles Club. And one recently sold in February 2021 for $3,998.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you have one of these sitting around your house, by all means, dig it up.
Yeah.
And use it as a down payment for a vehicle or something.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Yeah,
Jeez.
so, I mean, this is one of those rare things where it's just the increased value of vinyl records is just kind of mind-blowing.
Right.
Aside from that, I mean, I've always loved this song. I've always thought it was fun. I didn't realize it was a cover. It's actually kind of what attracted Sub Pop, what is his name, Bruce Pavitt and Jonathan Pondman from the founders of Sub Pop. It's what got them to think that, yes, we should sign Nirvana and we should put their music out. That
cover was the one?
Yeah, well, because they went to go see them live.
And they did it.
They did this song, and that's the only one that's the one where they were most excited. And they were like, that has potential. We want to put that out. Yeah.
Cool.
Because they actually didn't want to give them a full-length record. They actually wanted them to do an EP after that single. And, they just negotiated to just put out a full-length record. Makes sense. It's why bother with an EP? I mean, just how much more is it going to cost them, really? Yeah. How important is it to you to release vinyl?
Never done it before. So that was a big part of it. For me, with what we're doing with Anxious Wave, nothing I've ever recorded has come out on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of well, I want to do it. Never did it before. And it's also, it's the most predominant way that physical media is being consumed, at least in punk rock right now.
True.
If there's anybody buying anything, they're buying vinyl, and cassettes have resurged, but yeah, exactly.
Kind of. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the cassette. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem. I guess it really depends on who you are, because it doesn't seem very conducive to me, because it's I don't really have a tape deck anywhere.
Right.
I have a tape deck in my house, but I also have a CD player, but I don't play CDs either.
Right.
It's just like it's either streaming or it's just like I'm going to take the time to put it on the turntable. I mean, like,
and that's most people at this point. So that's basically it. You know, I just felt like, and I the packaging process and all that kind of stuff is really exciting. I think, you know, the collectability component, all the things, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so do you know when is the new record coming out? By the way, you don't know yet. Man, stuck in limbo.
Yeah. So, test press we were supposed to have originally, I think, sometime in August, but the delays are just significant. The latest we heard is that we'll have test presses this month, towards the end of the month, but it remains to be seen. So until we have test presses, we can't really pull the trigger on a whole bunch of other stuff. But we're doing some things, like we're going to be shooting another music video soon, and a few other things to kind of like line up with the release. So it's actually okay because we can kind of build momentum for it, but it's still annoying. Like we wrote these songs a really long time ago now. We have like plenty of new songs that we've already written, and we've even played we've played even one song that doesn't even exist. Playing because we just want to. We've been playing these songs for so long now.
Right.
So yeah, we don't know the answer to that, but we will sooner than later.
Okay, so I assume you're going to be doing like a pre-sale vinyl, you know, a few months before you think it's going to be arriving.
Yeah, that we're going to have to talk with the label and see how like all that kind of stuff is going to look when we have an actual like, oh, this will be our release date and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then the plans from there it's all kind of tentative, and we'll see what happens with all of it. When we have a date for sure is when we'll know. But
right. All right, man. Well, let's move on. We're gonna do Paper Cuts next. Man, you want to talk about creepy?
Yeah.
This is a good one. Creepy one.
This one, I'm looking at the lyrics right now. It reads like a horror novel.
Yeah, well, it's based on nonfiction.
Right.
So, yeah, the song was written about a story in a local paper about a family that locked their kids up in their attic.
Jeez. Yeah,
not great. So, and now the intriguing part about this song, or I mean, like, it's tough content lyrically. The song itself is cool. I mean, it's like a cool, like, heavy song. You know, it's really funny to listening to this. I'm just like, Nirvana never does this again. Like, they never get as heavy as this record. Like, some of the moments on this record are just like so kind of like on the verge of metal.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. It's like sludgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of sludge. Lots of just chugging. Chunk, 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 chunk. So what is it that you like? I mean, you're a horror movie fan.
Huge horror movie fan. Huge horror in general. Another thing I grew up with, started very, very young. Actually, I have a pile. So as I said earlier, this is where I was practicing. I have horror novels that from in between clients, you know, stuff just like chintzy horror novels that I was reading. And it's stuff like this that I think of, actually. Like, his writing style in this is kind of very literary, and it reminds me of something I've read in a horror novel. But it's not really like the lyrics or anything like that. It's just kind of like it's a really intense, heavy song. And if you're not paying it, and it sounds creepy. He's a killer writer as far as being able to evoke atmosphere.
Right.
This song sounds like some scary ass shit, and then you read the lyrics, and it's some scary ass shit.
Yes. Point made. Well, so it's funny. So then we go on to the next song, which is Negative Creep. I've always loved that song. Killer
song. This is one of my favorites on the album, for sure.
Mine too.
Yeah. I love the riffs in the song. The non-riff that is the bass, you know, the verse, and then that kind of like twangy guitar, the chorus is really cool. I just love this song. The lyrics are kind of hilarious, you know, and very, very repetitive. And nonsensical on the surface. I don't know. You seem like you've dug pretty deep on these.
And I was actually, when I first started doing the research, and I saw that Kurt really didn't care for these lyrics. That he didn't really seem like he put a lot of time or effort into them. And he personally had said that they didn't really mean anything to him. I was thinking like, okay, I gotta stay away from the lyrics because like. There, there's not a lot of them. There's not a lot of them, and they're very repetitive. And I think Kurt has always been kind of considered as a nonsensical writer, which is not true necessarily. Right. But this album, I think it's fair to kind of say that about his work because I mean it's fairly early for him. It's still a new process. He's
right.
new to writing. But this song, from what I've heard. This song is like a simplistic take of Kurt being down on himself and considering himself negative. Like it's kind of like a self-reflection that he's this negative creep. Do you consider yourself negative?
Absolutely, at times, and anybody that knows me well would agree. In fact, I feel like I'm a negative creep myself at times in my life, but. And I guess that looking at it through this kind of humorous lens and poking fun at myself, I can vibe with that with Kurt. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Once again, it's like while it's uncomfortable to view yourself or have other people view you as negative, it's a reality. We're all negative sometimes, and we're all negative in public sometimes. So we would be perceived as a negative creep. I think it's funny. I think it's funny that that it's kind of. I'm a negative creep and I'm stoned. I know what that's like, Kurt.
Yeah, right. Well, so you say you can be, you have your moments. It's like, but positivity is also just as important, and you realize that.
Absolutely.
So how do you keep positive?
Music. Music is the biggest way.
Screaming about your negativities.
Yeah, for me, well, then also the positive side of it is just the community piece. There's so many wonderful people involved in our local scene that I love to see and hang out with, and intelligent people and like-minded people that are writing killer music, and it's just exciting. And that part of it is always, that's very positive. I think that there's a best case scenario in Providence. There's a certain air of working together and teamwork that, it's one hand washes the other, and that stuff is all really positive. But to just have a place to ventilate the negative and do whatever you really want with the negative, it kind of flips the negative into a positive. You can take your shittiness of life and into a song that you can get a bunch of people dancing to or jumping around and knowing the words to, whatever it is. That's positive. Now it's positive. It's something that got a room full of people together. That's always, even if you're singing the most bummery shit, it's still something that people came together to. It's like a shared bond, unspoken bond, and that in itself is a really positive thing.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I actually didn't think of it that way, but that makes some pretty good sense.
Yeah. This is another thing about this album. And many times in recording, engineers or produce whatever, the guy behind the board is asked, what do you guys want your record to sound like? And over and over and over again, I have said that I want my record to sound like Bleach. There are so many the sounds that they were able to get on this album. I love some of the sound. I love the way the guitar sounds so much on this album.
So what would those engineers say to you when you tell them you want it to sound like Bleach?
Generally met with excitement and absolutely, yeah, let's do that. Let's try to aim for that. But it's the other thing about it is that I think it was kind of like lightning in a bottle almost. Like it was a happy accident that the record came out the way that it came out and sounds the way that it sounds. Mm-hmm. And there aren't a whole lot of records that sound exactly like it.
Yeah, none really. I mean, Nirvana was very unique. That's why they're so influential. They're right. Everyone wanted to sound like them afterwards.
Well, right. I mean, it takes the sensibility, the most enjoyable parts, in my opinion, of a little bit of everything and mash It's a little bit punk, it's a little bit metal, it's a little bit pop, and a little like folky and at points and indie at points. It's an interesting band.
I'm glad that you said that, because it's one thing I actually kind of wanted to touch on, and I think maybe we can just close out on this.
Sure.
Was that, so we live in Rhode Island. I've been a pretty big fan of like the noise rock scene in the city for a long time, and so Sub Pop has always had this like connection to Rhode Island because of being involved with Six Finger Satellite,
right?
And other bands too. I mean, even the Hydrogen Terrors wasn't on Sub Pop, but they had like a single, or no, it was Von Ryan's Express, I think, was on Sub Pop. But so there's all these bands that like had some kind of connection to them. Even the Amazing Crowns had like a single with them. But even then, it was just like, I mean, I spoke to Jay Ryan, and even he said how, when they were originally approached by Sub Pop, I mean, he thought that they were a weird label. It's just like, they're like this weird mixed bag. They kind of have all these strange bands that kind of don't seem like they make a lot of sense. Oh, like Combustible Edison, that's another one, Rhode Island band. We found out about Sub Pop after the fact, after Nevermind.
Yeah.
But thinking about that, like that album Bleach in '89, and what else was happening in the music scene, like what else Sub Pop was doing, and like the records that Kurt had been looking to for inspiration, like they're mostly kind of like noise rock bands that he was listening to, like weird punk rock that we now associate with like noise rock, like the Butthole Surfers and the Wipers and like Rape Man, it's so, I mean, like, do we really, and like I have a feeling like some like noise rockers kind of still kind of look down at Kurt, because it's like they kind of see him as being this pop guy, and it's like he kind of was a sellout, right?
Right. And that was his sentiment about it too, allegedly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was happy with it either. I don't think he's happy that his music got turned into this, or got projected into this space that he wasn't really wanting. I mean, he was just writing the songs that were natural for him, and it happens to be this kind
natural for everybody else too.
Yeah. But I feel like this was the basis and the beginnings of noise rock.
I would agree. And well,
kind of.
Definitely. Yeah. Noise rock as like a pop. I mean, think about how many bands are directly connected to Nirvana, as far as like, they kind of opened the floodgates to tons and tons of bands that are held in much higher regard, I think, amongst music nerds. Sonic Youth is the one that comes to mind almost immediately. I think that there's a lot of correlation between the two bands. I mean, thinking about it in the context of just 89's music climate at all, let's move it away from even noise rock or punk or metal. Just like, it's a ballsy record.
Yeah.
But
that's what those guys were doing. I mean, like anything on the Sub Pop catalog at that time, it's all ballsy music. It's all music that now we can kind of digest kind of pretty easily. Like if I were to show my kids like any of those records by like Mudhoney or Soundgarden, they'd be like, okay, yeah, it's rock and roll music. Yeah, okay, I get it. I don't like it.
Yeah, right.
But us, like, thinking about when we were kids and thinking about, living in that era, it's just like, that was kind of mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, right.
That was like the precipice of this new style of
Anybody
music.
Can do it. Anybody can do it. Like, average, everyday guys are just going to, you don't have to look like you're in Motley Crue to be a rock star.
Right.
Or to play music. Like, I mean, the image... Popular rock music prior to Nirvana was Poison.
Hair metal stuff like crap.
Yeah.
Singing about girls, singing about partying.
Yeah, nothing abstract at all about it. It was all kind of spoon-fed to you.
Or personal. Nothing personal, nothing abstract, nothing poetic.
No. And then this was basically like emotions on the sleeve kind of thing. From regular ass looking dudes that you'd run into at the mall in 1992 or something.
Right.
It's flipped it on its head, and I don't think that it ever. Nah, that's not true. I don't think it ever flipped back, but it did.
Kind of is, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the popular mainstream music now is actually more like the 80s pop music that we grew up with as kids. So the weird part is that Nirvana kind of like started a whole new music trend. I mean, and like, I don't think everyone's going to agree with that statement wholeheartedly, because they'll say like, well, if they were a punk band, then they weren't the first punk band. No. True, but they made it accessible is the thing. Yeah. So what is going to be the next weird style of music that is either too underground now, or will there be a completely, like, almost a completely new kind of genre of music that will hit the mainstream?
I've heard from music friends through the years that they feel as though we've already written and done everything we can do.
I know, that's a tough one, man.
It's
tough to think that way. I mean,
I don't necessarily think that way, but I do think that this is where the terms, post whatever comes, post rock, post hardcore, post this, post punk, post whatever, because basically what happens after a new sound becomes is it gets filtered through 1,000 different lenses, and then it kind of becomes somebody else's. Like, isn't that what Nirvana is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, while it is its own sound and nothing really sounds like it, there are many, many bands that influence Nirvana and then just kind of like amalgamation it all together into what Nirvana sounds like. And also, what those three, the band was a 4-piece at certain points too. But just whatever the musicians involved kind of, these are my 10 favorite bands and my 10 favorite bands and my 10 favorite bands. And this is what it sounds like. And it happened to sound like Nirvana. Basically, the lightning in a bottle statement kind of it holds true here too, because I think that's what we're waiting on. Another band that takes, my 10, your 10, and your 10, and your 10, and it is this new, fresh thing that's kind of just reborn from whatever.
Yeah, so we just have to wait for whatever that's going to be next. Just something that's going to come. Yeah.
But we've been waiting a real long time, so that's the part that's the glass half full. Like, what has happened since grunge that has really had such a profound effect? And are we even in a music consumption climate where something like grunge can happen?
Yeah, I don't know.
Someone's got to do the scourging, but I don't know. I feel like record labels, and understandably so, particularly big record labels that would be scouting out and act like Nirvana in the present day, they're not going to take a chance. Like, for David Geffen to be like, Nirvana, yeah, like that, nothing like that's going to happen like, there's no money to really be made in the record industry, unless you're repressing Nirvana.
Yeah, so, or Fleetwood Mac, yeah.
Or Fleetwood Mac, right. Fleetwood Mac, right. Because they sell it at like the checkout lane at Starbucks,
So much of it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But we're up against a lot of shit to get another grunge is basically my sentiment.
Yeah. It's just funny. It's just weird to think about it. Just like, where is it going to come from? What's the next thing going to be? It's going to be weird to see, and it'll be fun, I think.
Yeah.
I hope
it is. Maybe it's grunge part 2. Probably. I don't know.
Could be. Yeah, something weird. I don't know. Yeah. Well, so aside from the record coming out and the show on Saturday, is there anything else that we have not touched on? I'm sorry, I said Saturday. It's Friday, the 12th.
Friday the 12th. That's my fault. Yeah. Friday the 12th at the News Cafe, Anxious Wave, Passion Play, Alley Trash, a band from Worcester called I Know a Ghost, and a Métier. It's mostly all Providence bands. It's $5, so it's priced like it's 1992.
Yeah.
Downtown Pawtucket, News Cafe. It's going to be a fun time. If anybody that is catching this, and this goes up before the 12th. Maybe, yeah. If anybody's catching this and this is up before the 12th, come on out. And if not, come out to another show that is coming soon.
Yeah. Do you have another gig, another thing out further?
Yeah, not in Rhode Island. That's been announced yet, but this can be everyone's sneak peek. We're playing at dusk January 7th. It's a special lineup that I kind of put together myself because it's also my birthday show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but that'll be announced soon.
Okay. Well, so January 7th, that's another good date to look forward to, at least.
Locally in Providence. But actually, why the hell not? We're going to be playing a couple of state shows in December, too. Connecticut and Boston.
Okay.
So those are coming up, too.
Connecticut and Boston. You didn't know the dates or by chance or no?
Yes, we're playing Connecticut the 11th. The 11th at Altones with Intercourse and Darklands. There's a lot of bands on that one. That one's like 6 bands. And then we're playing one at O'Brien's on the 22nd with Black Beach, Cronies, and Betty's.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds great, man.
We're from Providence. We're living in Providence, and there's such a great legacy and history of music here. I want to do my part to perpetuate it and keep it going and make it better, because everybody loves to complain and no one loves to contribute. So, you know, you don't have to just be in a band to do that. You know, there's a million ways you can support local music and be a part of local music.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like what you're doing. This podcast, running a label and doing the things that you're doing.
Right.
If anything, there's plenty of bands, not plenty of labels, you know.
Right. Or just show up. That's all you really got to do.
Just show up. Right.
Just showing
up.
Just go out and like, not even if you know what it is. I mean, that's something I used to do as a young person that I kind of don't have the luxury to do anymore, but it's just like, just go to a place. Like, I don't know what the bill is. I don't know who's playing.
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be people I know there. I'm going to go and see what happens, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
As a kid, and like, that's another thing to be so grateful for, that we live in a place where at just about any given time, whether, you know, there's been points in my 20 plus years of going to shows where it's like, you know, sometimes it's better than others, but the other end of that is any point and time, just about any night of the week, you could find live music. Like, we're spoiled brats when you think about it, because there's places in this country where that's just like the closest thing you're going to get is like a cover band or karaoke or something for miles and miles. While we have a handful of venues in walking distance from each other that just about any night of the week have a bunch of cool shit happening. It's really
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I guess we do take advantage of that. I haven't really even processed that.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. We're lucky to be here, and well, at least that's how I feel about it. And at least from the music scene side of things, like, we have a really cool music scene, and I think it's important to continue it and make it. You know, I want young people to come in the way I once came in and be like, "Whoa, this is fucking cool," and I want to do this, and all that kind of stuff. And you know, as bands as big as Nirvana, you know, that stuff inspires us too. But like the local, like, I remember going to my first local shows, and that was just as much of a profound experience as it was to hear Nirvana for the first time, you know?
Yeah. No, it means more. I think it would mean more to a younger person, kind of like being able to see it and feel it and smell it and touch it and being like, wow.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Because how many experiences do young people get where it's so sensory and so social, and, you know, everything is through a goddamn cell phone now, and like, you know, you don't ask the girl that you're like nervous about, or, you know, make the new friend or any of that. You just do it all through the filter of a phone, where now, you know, and just like, I listen to music on my phone and I live through my phone. There's not a whole lot like, I watch TV on my phone. You don't go to Blockbuster to rent a movie anymore. You don't go to the movie theater to see it. You don't, you know, the concert, the live music setting, there's nothing else on the planet like it. And I hope that it lives forever, because, you know, the young people don't get anything, like, there isn't a whole lot of this kind of communal stuff around art at all. And so for us to be able to pack a room full of 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, however many people want to come out, it's a blessing as far as I'm concerned. It's like, good. You know, let's keep doing that, and let's make it continue to be.
Right. I hear you, man. All right, let's keep it going. Cool, man. Well, hey, go have a good time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Honestly, you know, I mean, I'm so glad that you reached out to me and that we like finally got time to talk.
Definitely. Let's keep in touch and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, I'll try to see you on Friday.
Awesome. See you then.
All right, man. See you there.
Take care.